Yes, you guys, welcome back. With the video today, I want to use this as an opportunity to share my real thoughts and opinions behind the state of our current season. How I feel about Graham Potter, how I feel about the direction we're going in under someone like Todd Boehly, and how I feel about the state of the squad as well too. But before I continue on, I want to just get this off my chest right now, but I am absolutely sick and tired and bored that the conversation is only exclusively around whether Graham Potter is good enough and whether he should be sacked. It's such a boring conversation. Let me make things very simple. We signed him and his staff back in September for 20 million. That was the release clause value for all of them. And just apply reality to this situation for 1 second. Apply real life reality. Do you really think someone like Graham Potter would decide to sign for us if he felt like he could be undermined by getting sacked before the season ends, when he's taken over a club during the midway point of the season, when most of the players probably aren't players that he'd ideally want to be working with? Do you really think he would agree to something that crazy? And even if he did, for the sake of this argument, can you imagine how expensive that termination clause would be for not only Potter but his staff as well too? Come on, some of you guys, please wake up. Is Todd Boehly looking to be Roman Abramovich 2.0? Have you not seen what he's trying to build here? He's trying to build some sustainability. That's going to take a lot of work throughout the season. It's not only squad changes, it's staff changes and a new way in which the club is operating, which doesn't get fixed overnight. Potter was hired specifically for this reason. He was given a 5-year deal worth 10 million a year specifically because of what he can bring in the long term. I know that because we're fans of a big team, we constantly undermine what happens underneath us, and whatever successes you have at a smaller team means absolutely nothing. But for God's sake, when you took over Houghton, when that Brighton team was absolutely awful, he needed at least 2 seasons to get things fully firing. And look at Brighton right now. Look at the players they have right now. They've got a World Cup winner, McAllister, that they signed for peanuts from Argentina. That's what long-term sustainability looks like. And I'm sorry, we aren't that good where those same simple football principles can't apply to us. It's time to accept we're looking to do things a bit differently. And it's time to accept that this season is a result of every bad decision compounding and affecting us and hitting us. And before I continue on, I also want to say this. A lot of times people are slapping Mr. Positivity towards me, but I feel like it's just people, or a few people, constantly missing the point. I'm about perspective. You know what I see with the fan base, yeah? When times are going well, everything gets overgassed, overglorified. All the players we have are the best in the world. They'll get into any team, etc., etc. The moment we lose, we're the worst thing you can possibly imagine. We aren't good enough. Clear out the entire squad. It's just extremes versus extremes. I'm about perspective. I'm about leveling out the extremes here, because that's how you really tackle some of these things that have to be talked about in conversations. And that's what I don't see enough of. That's why I had to start off this video by literally breaking down the laws. Do you really think Graham Potter will be sacked? And we're going to spend all that money to sack him after we literally just hired him? And what's that saying to other guys who want to take over us in the future? Be realistic now. Now for me, I've accepted the reality of this season. This is another 15-16 season. Even if Potter was to get sacked, the interim coming in isn't changing anything. It's over. Maybe we had to go through this to start really pushing the future now, because maybe it's time to talk about my opinions on the squad. But the regression has been here for a long time. So please, some of you guys can't be talking about having high standards for this football club when you've accepted regression at this club over 1 year now. We've seen regression in all our players, but most importantly, regression in the senior players, the ones you're looking towards. I'm sorry, Jorginho and Kovacic have gone down another level. Right now, our midfield is one of the weakest in the top 10. Look at a club like Brighton, for God's sake. McAllister and Casado, that is a better pivot compared to Kovacic and Jorginho. Last night, we saw Andreas Pereira run absolute rings around our midfields. You're looking at Newcastle's midfield. You're looking at Arsenal's midfield. You're looking at United now with Casemiro in that team. Every team has invested to transform their midfield because midfield is the most vital aspect of any team. That is where you win and lose your games. If your midfield is not levels, if it is not fine-tuned for the needs of the team, if it is not as dominant, you will get affected. And this is what is currently happening with us. Kovacic has gone down a level. Jorginho has gone down a level. We rarely have N'Golo Kante in this team, and everyone else is just a squad guy who doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things compared to the key players. But regression doesn't only apply to these two. I'm looking at Azpilicueta. He only has a place in the squad for the leadership, but we are relying upon him in games way too much than we actually should. And it's quite obvious that he has lost his legs, and he has also gone down a level as well too, where he becomes one of the most susceptible parts in the team whenever he's playing. You're looking at guys like Mendy. I guess since Lolachon left, his goalkeeping has gone down. And you're looking at Kepa, who has never ever once justified close to the fee we paid for him. On top of this, you guys, some incredibly poor purchases. You're looking at Koulibaly, signed by Thomas Tuchel against the wishes of some of the figures at the club. Look how that's worked out for us so far. And Aubameyang, I mean, I actually even feel sorry for Aubameyang. He literally signed for us a few days after getting beaten up and punched up in a home robbery attempt. He didn't want to leave Barcelona, and the second he signs for us, Thomas Tuchel is out the door. Now, with big clubs, and I mean big clubs where you look at their past season and the actions speak for the words. You know, I feel like at times, as fan bases, we can like fool ourselves into thinking we're on that type of level, where a lot of times the planning and strategy prior has not suggested anything. Most big clubs phase out players they feel are about to hit the decline phase. When is the last time anyone's been phased out after they've hit decline? They only leave when their contract goes down. That's already a clear sign of how we constantly allow regression to creep in the club. Because the thing that bothers me about regression is that it's like a virus and sickness that floods throughout the team. You impact the other players around you. And if we're about looking to build for the future, give big money to top young players as well too, we can go on the market and sign guys for our reserve team that costs us 20 million, 60 million, and crazy fees like that. You will constantly undermine any efforts because you're giving them poor seniors around them. Unfortunately, most of these guys tend to be ever present in the team, and they're not out with the injuries. And the more times we're relying upon these guys in the same lineup, the more often we're losing games. And this is exactly why I used to be really critical about Thomas Tuchel and his footballing ideas before, because I didn't see the football really improving any of the young talents in the team to take their games to the next level. Instead, it was a system papering over cracks, relying upon the experience of senior guys. And did they benefit from playing week in, week out? Did they get better playing significant roles in the team? Did they level up and improve? Absolutely not. The only reason why we even challenged for that short period is because we were one of the fittest, strongest teams in Europe. Our intensity was greater than most teams, and that's exactly how our intensity won us the Champions League. That was not sustainable. And the whole footballing ideas prioritize around the senior experience at the expense of developing any young talents. And people will say to me, oh Nini, the young talents didn't deserve to get in the team. How can they play when the environment is not suited for them to prove themselves? Come on, you guys. And this is what I mean by only playing for results to paper over the cracks right now. It is not a sustainable way to play, because the issues are you've wasted the crucial development years for a lot of young guys in this team as well too to become better and go to that next level. But most importantly, your football ideas don't evolve or improve at all because no one else is improving. If the seniors, I mean, my God, these guys should be at a much higher level considering the amount of games they've played over us over the past few seasons. They've got worse now. How can you be a Chelsea fan? You were seeing your Lampards, your Ballacks, your Essians, your Drogbas, and accept this current crop of senior players? Don't talk to me about having high standards. They don't exist to you really deep down. So right now, it is only about rebuilding. Now, in terms of our hopes this season, we ain't rebuilding anything. The only thing we can hope for is something exceptional in the Champions League, which is the only thing we have to fight for realistically. I don't see us picking up the points. We're gone too far. I mean, you guys deep this situation. Look how bad it is. The injury crisis right now is one of the worst ones I've seen since the 07-08 season. Guys like Michael Essien and Lissana Jara were playing as right backs in the team, and Essien was playing as a centre back at times too. That injury crisis killed us, and that allowed Man United to win the league that season. You can see the injury list beside me. You can now add guys like Felix, who's now suspended, and you can add Zakaria to the injury list. Look at the legs, look at the power, look at the physicality, look at the skill, the technique that is currently out of this team. Please tell me which manager comes in right now and does better with what Porter has. He has half the squad to work with right now. And as I keep trying to stress, everything you work upon in the training ground means absolutely nothing if by the next game you play, more players keep getting hit with injuries. It's been happening consecutively now, time and time again. And I guess it's no surprise that today, reported by Matt Law, the club are actually reviewing the medical team because, my God, when half your team is out with injuries or picking up reoccurring knocks time and time again, what are you actually building for? Of course, I've criticised Graham Potter for not having some consistency at times, but I'm not going to be naive and pretend that most times he isn't forced to have to make changes because key players are missed out on. If you want Potter out right now, you think that someone can come in and do better with what currently exists. And if you think so, personally, I think you're being a bit naive. Now I get the other side of the argument, meaning if this season is a write-off and means nothing, Potter uses this as an opportunity now to blood in the players for the future and use them right now. I agree with that, but I'm not going to pretend that no risk comes with that. I mean, I'm sorry you guys. Even though there's top talents in Khans and Lewis Hall, excitement behind David Fofana as well too, do you really think that they won't be susceptible to youthful and experienced mistakes? I mean, of course they will. That's what happens at this age. And I'm okay with accepting the risks and the flaws that come with that if it's about building these foundations right now to get us better prepared for future seasons. But please, don't fool yourself into thinking that we're going to see an upturn in results because now we're using all the young guys on the bench who've had like sick 10, 15-minute cameos that are going to come on and transform the team. That's being way too naive. As I keep stressing, teams around us have caught up and have surpassed us right now. And I think Arsenal, Arteta are the prime amazing example because let's not pretend that Arteta was in the same situation a few seasons back. Everyone calling for his head. Unreal entitlement from Arsenal fans where the club didn't really do much in the past 10 years, but look at how the benefits have paid off. I'll give you an example. Look at the treatment in which how Arteta used players like Martinelli and Saka's develop. Did we do the same thing with Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi? Pulisic signed for big money from Dortmund, beat a lot of big clubs for his competition, and Hudson-Odoi were turning down 70 million offers from Bayern Munich to do what with them? Because when Tuchel was here, most times they're playing out of position or only playing when positions need to be filled. There was no development plan for them. And this is what I mean by how regression was allowed, because we've always been a club that relies upon the brilliance of individual managers or players in the moment. They pay pro for cracks and cracks and cracks. We play for results, but it is not sustainable for the next season or the season after. Do you want another 10 years where we have one good season, one mid one, and constantly that continue to be this bipolar club that has to overspend just to get half the success we should actually be getting? I can't speak for you guys, but for me, that's not good enough. And now look at Arsenal right now. I mean, right now, how many of their players get in our team? How much improvement have we seen in our young guys who haven't been able to improve because most of them are playing out of position for senior players who are not levels and who are not good enough? And 3 seasons in, I'm still seeing your Havertzes, your Mounts, and all these guys playing different roles and positions week in and week out. Stuff like this is why we are exactly where we are. I mean, it's that simple. If you're Martinelli and Saka, where you've been allowed to make mistakes like wide in the wings, over the years, you're going to be able to improve your understanding, your relationships with each other. That's why, for example, we saw the João Felix debut yesterday, and we saw 2 occasions where both Mount and Kai Havertz couldn't play that forward pass to find him. And I think to myself, with all the criticism they were getting for that, I was thinking, why are you surprised when we've never consistently had any attacking identity where these players would expect to be playing passes like this? I'm praying with João Felix when this guy comes back that we see improvements fast and players start to keep their heads up now, but you can't pretend that the lack of attacking identity, the lack of developing a style, improving it, working on it slowly and slowly hasn't come to cost us in the end. We've been papering over cracks since the start of this new decade, you guys, and we're paying the price for it right now. That's why Todd Boehly has come in, and that's why Todd Boehly wants to bring a new direction to this football club. So I guess it's time to give my thoughts on Todd Boehly, and I guess there's one thing I want to say. I'm looking at certain guys in the January market we're linked with, guys like Marcus Thuram, guys like Madueke. Listen, they're all good players in their own right, but my God, if these guys are just short-term stopgap signings just to help for a season that's going absolutely nowhere for right now, then it's not good enough. If we're not signing players that address key issues in the team, like getting a competitive right back, the fact that Reece James has been the only guy for God knows how many years, and not once over the years this issue has been addressed in the team. What does that tell you about a team that's serious, yeah? Because the rivals around us, the better clubs, these are the details they don't take for granted. We've been in the same mess for how long, and it's paid the price even harder this season. If we're not signing guys to help for now and for the future, then do not sign them, yeah? I should sign Marcus Thuram for right now, when maybe in the summer I want to get a Victor Roque. There's no space for him in the team now, and we've lost out on an opportunity that could help us sport in the long term. So I want to make sure that there's some real strategy going into transfer decisions in this January window, because I think this season has proven, and I think hopefully it proves something I've been saying for so long on this channel: money is not enough. Just the ability to buy and spend is not a guarantee that you deserve success in a season. Every club has money in this country right now, especially the main rivals trying to get European places. You need strategy. There's a level of detail that is needed to help your team fire on all cylinders. You know, overpaying for players who are bringing minimal improvements to the team is not taking you anywhere if you still can't address the crucial issues in your team. If every season you know that Reece James can only play half the games, how the hell are you not signing competition for him to help us when he's out of the team, for God's sake? It's the same thing with Ben Chilwell. When midfield, we've not signed anyone since, the 1920 season when Quaver's loan was made permanent. No serious club moves like this, yeah? No serious club moves. Look at how other teams operate. We don't do the same thing right now, but we are trying to get there under Todd Boehly. Right now, I don't like contradictions, and I don't want to see any short-term stopgap guys signed that didn't have like an original place or plan for the future. Don't waste money and don't waste time. So where's our season going currently? Well, it's going nowhere. We're probably not going to get Champions League football. The only thing we have left now is a decent Champions League run. That's all we have going for us right now. There's no magical system or tactic that's going to help, improve the team's fortunes with what's currently left at Graham Potter's disposal. That's pure fantasy. And if you think another manager comes in and can make something work from nothing, then I think that's pure delusion, because you've not accepted the regression that has been slowly creeping in since over a year now. I'd say the only good thing that could salvage the season is if we're able to at least start the building blocks, start building some foundations for the future seasons. For next season when Nkunku comes, I want to make sure that the attacking style is at least of like a satisfactory nature, knowing that, okay, when Nkunku comes into the team next season, this is what he's adding to the attack, and this is how we continue our attacking development. As I'm saying, I feel like if Potter was let go for any crazy reasons that I would just don't see happening at all this season under his new boards, then honestly, I start panicking like crazy, and it would undermine everything this board has been communicating to us since they've taken over. These issues aren't exclusive to Graham Potter. He has inherited them. For God's sake, the stats are just like proving everything. Look at the first 18 games of Graham Potter and look at the final 18 games of Thomas Tuchel. Are you guys going to lie to yourselves and pretend that we didn't end second half of the season under Tuchel in bad fashion, where we just scraped by getting Champions League spots? Like, for God's sake, I think it's getting so mad that people are calling for him to get sacked after that defeat to Fulham. I mean, come on. If you can't see that the injuries changed the game and going down to 10 men changed the game, don't just be a blind hater and pretend that you didn't see a few positives with João Felix's introduction in the team in that first half. Things would have been different if João didn't get sent off with a red card. But regardless, what can really happen for this season? Because deep it like this, yeah, we have half a team, and most of these guys who are available are overplaying right now, getting more tired and getting more fatigued, and there's not enough strength around the team right now to help cover the mins. So we're progressively becoming weaker. We're losing that intensity, and I think that lack of intensity was very clear to see versus Fulham, and I think that's exactly why Potter decided to use a back three, because he knows the midfield doesn't have the legs to really combat and fight for a full 90 minutes against a fresh and fit team like Fulham. Like, this is how things are spiraling downwards and downwards and downwards, and there's no way to really solve things unless Todd Boehly will do a Mazza in the window and sign world-class guys for over 80 million. But that's probably not going to happen. So we can continue to just have these conversations about, should Potter stay? Is Potter good enough? Can Potter handle Premier League life? Can he handle it at a big club? Bro, what manager is handling this specific situation right now? Come on, like, you're not understanding the game if you really feel like success is expected just because you're managing a big team. Things are working against us. If we can't accept reality, then that's really on you. Obviously, I'm not happy with the season. And just because I understand the difficulties doesn't mean that I'm accepting our new status or whatever, bad arguments that I see to certain things that I'm putting out there at times. But there's a level of acceptance and reality that a lot of us have to find ourselves back in right now. These issues have compounded, and there were signs of them 12 months prior and 18 months prior, yeah? I'm not going to blame everything on Graham Potter when he's taken over a pretty poor squad. I mean, you guys have mostly made about the squad over the past 2 years. And I'm not going to stick it on him when he hasn't had a pre-season and when this board constantly gives verbal support publicly that he will remain and he was signed for the future. It just feels redundant. To end this video, to keep things real, there's really no positive end note I can leave things on. I'd be incredibly surprised if we turn things around in this season. I just don't see it happening at this point in time. There's too many factors working against us, and this injury record is just criminal at this point in time. And by the time all these guys even return back to the team, how much game time are they going to really need to get back to full form? The season's over. Let's use this opportunity right now. Let's take this sacrifice to get ready for next season. If you miss out on Champions League football, that would be a humongous loss. But if by having an extra week of preparation for game time, similar to what Antonio Conte did the last time we won the league, then I will take that if it means this time, at least there is a plan for sustainability that is getting built on for multiple seasons. That is the only thing I would accept at this point in time. But right now, you guys accept reality of the situations. If you're not doing things well in terms of your management, strategy and structure over the past few seasons, you get seasons like this. It's not the manager's fault for inheriting things. It's not Todd Boehly's fault because he's trying to change the culture here right now. This is years of prior mistakes coming back to bite us in the arse. It really is that simple. So we can continue to moan and cry and say the manager's shit, the players are shit. Or maybe we can be a bit positive now, get behind the team a little bit now, use our platforms and our social media accounts to give some support, at least to make the players feel like they're not public enemy number one, so they're not going to play with even less confidence in the next game. These are the small things we can do as fans who are accepting reality and what life is to be right now. The plan isn't to be successful for this season. The plan is to be the club that is successful over 10 years. And sometimes to get to better places, you must accept the hardships that come with that to move on to better things. I don't really know what to say to this. I'm not looking to do videos talking about Potter's future and the club and the squad 24/7 now. It won't be the first time we lose more games as the season's going on. But right now, I'm just accepting reality for what it is. I'm accepting how reality has become this way. And I'm hoping our reality changes as future seasons come on. So you guys on that note, share your thoughts and opinions. I'm going to keep things moving. Cool.